The ancient ceramic vessel slipped from Samantha Riverton's gloved hands, shattering against the concrete floor of the Phoenix National Museum storage room. 3 months of meticulous restoration work destroyed in a single moment of distraction. Perfect, she muttered, crouching to examine the fragments. The 12th century Islamic piece had been her pride and joy since arriving at the museum. Now it lay in pieces, just like her confidence. Dr. Margaret Thornfield, the museum director, would have her head. Samantha had fought tooth and nail for this position fresh out of Stanford, beating dozens of more experienced candidates. At 21, she was the youngest curator in the museum's history, and everyone was waiting for her to fail. The storage room door creaked open behind her. Ms. Riverton, a deep voice with a slight accent, filled the space. I heard something break. Samantha didn't look up. Unless you're here to perform miracles, I suggest you keep walking. Actually, I might be able to help. She finally turned around and felt her breath catch. The man standing in the doorway was tall with dark hair and piercing green eyes that seemed to see right through her. He wore an expensive charcoal suit that fit him perfectly, and there was something about the way he carried himself that commanded attention. I'm Khalil Al-Nasser, he said, stepping into the room. Dr. Thornfield asked me to find you. I'm the new Islamic art consultant. Samantha's stomach dropped. This was the expert she was supposed to work with for the next 6 months. The one who would judge whether she was competent enough to handle the museum's most valuable collection. Samantha Riverton, she said, pulling off her gloves. And you're looking at my resignation letter in ceramic form. Khalil moved closer, his expensive shoes clicking against the floor. When he crouched beside her, she caught a hint of his cologne, something woody and sophisticated that made her pulse quicken despite the circumstances. This is a reproduction, he said after examining the pieces. What? The original is safely locked in the vault. This was a teaching piece. He picked up a fragment, turning it over in his hands. See the mark here? Modern kills leave a different signature than ancient ones. Relief flooded through Samantha so quickly she felt dizzy. Are you serious? Would I lie about something so important? His lips curved into a slight smile, and she noticed a small scar near his left eyebrow that somehow made him even more attractive. Dr. Thornfield didn't mention that detail when she assigned me to catalog it. She probably wanted to see how you handled pressure. Khalil stood, extending his hand to help her up. When their fingers touched, an electric current shot up her arm. You passed. Samantha let him pull her to her feet, acutely aware of how close they were standing. What makes you so sure? Most people would have panicked, made excuses, or tried to hide the damage. You took responsibility immediately. She studied his face, looking for signs of mockery, but found only genuine respect. You don't know me well enough to make that judgment. I'm a good reader of people. It's necessary in my line of work, which is authenticating pieces that could be worth millions or completely worthless, depending on their provenance. He released her hand reluctantly. One mistake can destroy careers, so I've learned to be careful about who I trust. Something in his tone suggested he was talking about more than just artifacts. Samantha felt drawn to the mystery behind his words, even as warning bells went off in her head. She'd sworn off complicated men after her last relationship disaster, but there was something about Khalil that made her want to know more. Dr. Thornfield mentioned you'd be evaluating our entire Middle Eastern collection, she said, trying to keep her voice professional. Among other things. His phone buzzed, and he glanced at the screen with a frown. I need to take this call. Can we continue our discussion tomorrow? Of course. He paused at the door. Ms. Riverton. Yes. The way you handle genuine crises will be far more important than how you deal with fake ones. Before she could ask what he meant, he was gone, leaving only the lingering scent of his cologne and a dozen questions she couldn't shake. Samantha bent to gather the ceramic pieces, her mind racing. There had been something in Khalil's eyes when he looked at her, an intensity that went beyond professional interest. She'd spent her entire career focusing on ancient mysteries, but now she found herself facing a modern one that might be far more dangerous to her heart than any priceless artifact could ever be to her career. Samantha stared at her reflection in the ladies' room mirror, questioning her sanity for the 3rd time in 10 minutes. When Khalil had asked her to dinner to discuss the collection, she should have suggested the museum cafeteria, not agreed to meet at Babylon, the most exclusive Middle Eastern restaurant in Phoenix. Her black dress was professional enough for a work meeting, but elegant enough that she wouldn't look out of place among the restaurant's wealthy clientele. She'd spent 20 minutes on her makeup, telling herself it was just professional courtesy. The lie tasted bitter. Khalil was already waiting when she arrived, and her breath caught again. He'd changed from his business suit into dark jeans and a navy button-down that made his green eyes even more striking. He stood when he saw her, a gesture that felt both old-fashioned and natural. "You look beautiful," he said simply. "Thank you." She slipped into the chair he pulled out for her, trying to ignore how his fingers brushed her shoulders as he pushed it in. The restaurant was dimly lit with warm amber lighting, and their table overlooked a fountain surrounded by desert landscaping. It was romantic, despite her attempts to frame this as business. "I took the liberty of ordering for us," Khalil said. "I hope you don't mind." "That depends on what you ordered. Traditional meze, lamb tajin, and baklava for dessert. Nothing too adventurous." The waiter appeared with a bottle of wine that probably cost more than Samantha's monthly grocery budget. She watched Khalil taste it with the confidence of someone accustomed to the finer things in life. "So," she said once they were alone again, "tell me about your background in Islamic art." Something flickered across his face so quickly she almost missed it. "I grew up surrounded by it. My family has been collecting for generations." "Here in the States?" "We've lived in many places." He poured wine into her glass. "What about you? What drew you to archaeology?" The deflection was smooth, but Samantha caught it. "My adoptive parents were history professors. I spent summers on dig sites instead of at summer camp." "Adoptive?" "I was placed with the Riverton family when I was 3. I don't remember much before that." Khalil's hand stilled on his wine glass. "Do you ever wonder about your biological family?" "Sometimes. But the Rivertons gave me everything I needed." She studied his face. "You're very good at turning conversations away from yourself." "Am I?" "Yes. In the past 5 minutes, you've learned about my childhood, my education, and my family situation. I know that you grew up around art and have lived in many places. That's hardly a biography." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Some stories are better told slowly." The waiter arrived with their appetizers, saving Khalil from further questioning. The food was exquisite, and Samantha found herself relaxing despite her curiosity about her dinner companion. "This is incredible," she said, trying the hummus. "How did you know about this place?" "I make it my business to know the best restaurants wherever I go." "And where else do you go?" "London, Dubai, New York. Wherever the art takes me." "That sounds lonely." Khalil's fork paused halfway to his mouth. "Why do you say that?" "Constantly traveling, never putting down roots. Don't you want something permanent?" "Permanence is a luxury I can't afford." There was pain in his voice, quickly hidden but unmistakable. Samantha wanted to ask more, but something in his expression warned her off. "What about you?" he asked. "Any permanent attachments?" "Not currently. My last relationship ended when I realized he was more interested in my potential salary than in me." His loss. The sincerity in Khalil's voice made her cheeks warm. "What about you?" "It's complicated." "It always is." They ate in comfortable silence for a while, the tension from earlier questions fading. Samantha found herself watching the way Khalil moved, the careful precision of his gestures, the way he listened to her with complete attention. "Can I ask you something?" she said as the waiter cleared their plates. "You can ask." "That scar by your eyebrow. How did you get it?" His hand moved unconsciously to touch the mark. "Childhood accident. I was climbing somewhere I shouldn't have been." "Rebellious child?" "You could say that." His smile was genuine this time. "I had difficulty accepting limitations." Past tense. Present tense, if I'm being honest. After dinner, Khalil walked her to her car in the restaurant's parking lot. The Phoenix night was clear, stars visible despite the city lights. "Thank you for dinner," Samantha said. "The food was amazing. The company was better." She turned to face him, acutely aware of how close they were standing. "Khalil, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest." "What is it? Is this just business for you?" "Because it doesn't feel like business." He was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "No, Samantha, this isn't just business." Before she could respond, he cupped her face in his hands and kissed her. It was gentle at first, tentative, but when she responded, pressing closer to him, the kiss deepened. She could taste wine on his lips and feel the rapid beat of his heart against her chest. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. I should go, she whispered. Yes, he agreed, but neither of them moved. This complicates everything. I know. She stood on her tiptoes and kissed him again, quick and sweet. Good night, Khalil. As she drove home, Samantha couldn't shake the feeling that she was falling for a man with secrets that could destroy them both. 3 weeks had passed since their first dinner, and Samantha found herself looking forward to work in ways she never had before. Khalil arrived each morning with coffee from the expensive shop down the street, and their professional collaboration had evolved into something deeper and more intimate. She was cataloging a collection of 15th-century manuscripts when she heard his voice through the partially open door of his temporary office. He was speaking in rapid Arabic, his tone sharp and urgent. Samantha tried to focus on her work, but something in his voice made her pause. She'd never heard him sound so authoritative, so commanding. It was like listening to a completely different person. I don't care what the council says, Khalil's voice carried through the door. The marriage contract was signed under duress, and I won't honor it. Marriage contract? Samantha's blood ran cold. Yasmin Farouk can find another husband. I'm not returning to Kamar al-Sara to fulfill some archaic arrangement made when we were children. The manuscript slipped from Samantha's hands. Kamar al-Sara was a small emirate in the Persian Gulf. She'd studied it briefly in college, a wealthy oil-producing nation ruled by traditional sheikhs. The emirate's financial problems are not my responsibility to solve through marriage, Khalil continued. Find another way to secure the alliance. Samantha's hands shook as she gathered the scattered papers. Sheikh. Marriage contract. Financial problems. The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. Because there's someone else, Khalil said, his voice softening. Someone I care about more than political alliances. She pressed her back against the wall, her heart hammering so loudly she was sure he could hear it through the door. Her name is Samantha, and she's the reason I can't go through with this charade anymore. The conversation continued, but Samantha couldn't process the words. She grabbed her purse and fled the museum, ignoring Dr. Thornfield's surprised call from across the lobby. Her apartment felt like a refuge until she realized that everywhere she looked, she saw reminders of Khalil, the book of Persian poetry he'd given her, the scarf from their weekend trip to Sedona, the photo of them at the museum's charity gala, looking like any normal couple in love. Except nothing about their relationship was normal. She paced her living room, trying to make sense of what she'd heard. Khalil wasn't just wealthy, he was royalty. And he was promised to marry someone else, had been promised since childhood. Everything between them was built on lies. Her phone buzzed with a text from him. Left early today? Everything okay? She stared at the message, remembering how those same hands had touched her face, how those same lips had whispered her name. How many other women had he charmed while hiding behind false identities? Another text. Dinner tonight? There's something important I need to tell you. Samantha laughed bitterly. Now he wanted to tell her the truth? After weeks of deception? She turned off her phone and poured herself a glass of wine with shaking hands. The apartment felt smaller with each passing minute, filled with the weight of her stupidity. She'd fallen in love with a ghost, a carefully constructed persona designed to hide the reality of who he really was. When the doorbell rang an hour later, she knew it was him without looking through the peephole. Samantha, please open the door. His voice was muffled but urgent. I know you're in there. She yanked the door open, and the sight of him made her chest ache. He looked worried, his usual composure cracked. What's wrong? He asked immediately. You left without saying goodbye, and you're not answering your phone. Sheikh Khalil al-Nasser of Kamar al-Sara, she said quietly. The color drained from his face. That's who you really are, isn't it? Not just some art consultant. You're royalty, and you're engaged to be married. He stepped into her apartment without invitation, closing the door behind him. You overheard my phone call. Overheard? I overheard you talking about your fiancé and your emirate and how I'm just some distraction from your real life. That's not what I said, isn't it? Samantha backed away from him. You've been lying to me from the moment we met. Everything about us is a lie. Not everything. He reached for her, but she jerked away. My feelings for you are real. Your feelings? She laughed, the sound hollow. Your promise to marry someone else. You have responsibilities, a kingdom to think about. I'm just the American girl you're fooling around with while you're stuck in Arizona. Don't reduce what we have to something cheap. Then tell me the truth. All of it. Khalil ran his hands through his hair, the gesture achingly familiar. My name is Khalil al-Nasser, and yes, I'm the heir to Kamar al-Sara. The marriage arrangement with Yasmin was made when we were children to secure an alliance between our families. And you conveniently forgot to mention this minor detail. I was going to tell you tonight. I've been trying to find a way out of the engagement since I met you. Trying to find a way out? Or trying to have your cake and eat it too? That's not fair. Fair. Samantha's voice rose. You let me fall in love with someone who doesn't exist. You made me believe we had a future when you knew it was impossible. It's not impossible. I told you. I'm trying to break the engagement. And if you can't, what happens to me then? Do I just disappear while you marry your princess and live happily ever after? Khalil's silence was answer enough. Get out, Samantha whispered. Samantha, please. Get out of my apartment, get out of my museum, and get out of my life. She turned away from him, wrapping her arms around herself. She heard him move toward the door, then stop. I love you, he said quietly. Love isn't enough when it's built on lies. The door closed with a soft click, and Samantha sank onto her couch as the tears finally came. She'd given her heart to a man who belonged to someone else, to a world she could never be part of. 3 days later, she submitted her resignation to Dr. Thornfield and booked a one-way ticket to Seattle. 2 years had passed since Samantha fled Phoenix, and Seattle had become her sanctuary. The constant drizzle matched her mood perfectly during those first months, when every sunny day felt like a betrayal of her broken heart. She'd found work at Meridian Gallery, a small but respected art space in Pioneer Square, where she could lose herself in cataloging contemporary pieces and forget about ancient artifacts that reminded her of green eyes and false promises. The gallery's owner, Elena Vasquez, had become both mentor and friend, a sharp-tongued woman in her 50s who'd survived 2 divorces and a bankruptcy. Elena understood the value of starting over without asking too many questions about the past. You're getting that look again, Elena said on a rainy Thursday afternoon in October. She was reviewing auction catalogs while Samantha photographed a new sculpture acquisition. What look? The one that says you're thinking about him again. Samantha adjusted her camera settings, avoiding Elena's knowing gaze. I don't think about him anymore. Honey, you've been here 2 years, and you still flinch every time someone mentions the Middle East. You've turned down 3 decent men who asked you out, and you spend more time at this gallery than I do, which is saying something. I like my work. Work is supposed to fund your life, not replace it. Before Samantha could respond, her phone rang. Unknown number with a Phoenix area code. Her stomach lurched the way it always did when she saw Arizona numbers, even though she knew Khalil wouldn't call. He'd respected her wishes and disappeared completely from her life. She declined the call and turned back to her work, but the phone rang again immediately. Same number. Maybe you should answer it, Elena suggested. Could be important. Against her better judgment, Samantha picked up. Hello. Is this Samantha Riverton? The voice was unfamiliar, professional. Yes. Ms. Riverton, this is Detective Sarah Morrison with Phoenix PD. I'm calling about Dr. Margaret Thornfield. Samantha's grip tightened on the phone. Is she okay? Ma'am, Dr. Thornfield was in a serious car accident this morning. She's listed you as her emergency contact for work-related matters. She's asking for you. The gallery spun around Samantha. Margaret had been like a second mother to her, the one who'd believed in her when no one else would. How serious? She's stable, but she's been asking for you specifically. Something about important documents you need to handle. I'll be on the next flight. Samantha hung up and found Elena watching her with concern. What happened? My former boss in Phoenix was in an accident. I have to go back. Do you want me to come with you? No, but thank you. I just need to handle whatever documents she's worried about and get back here as soon as possible. The flight to Phoenix felt like traveling backward through time. Samantha had carefully built a new life in Seattle, complete with new routines, new friends, and new dreams that didn't include men with secrets and royal obligations. The thought of returning to the city where her heart had been shattered made her nauseous. She rented a car at Sky Harbor Airport and drove straight to the hospital, her hands shaking on the steering wheel. The desert landscape looked exactly the same, as if the past 2 years had been nothing more than a long dream. Margaret was awake when Samantha arrived, her head bandaged and her left arm in a cast. Despite her injuries, her eyes were sharp and alert. Samantha, thank God you came. Margaret struggled to sit up straighter. I was so worried you wouldn't. Of course I came. How are you feeling? Like I was hit by a truck, which is essentially what happened. Margaret's attempt at humor didn't hide the pain in her voice. But that's not why I called you here. There's something you need to know, something I should have told you years ago. Samantha pulled a chair closer to the bed. What are you talking about? Your adoption records. The ones that were sealed when you were placed with the Rivertons. Margaret, you don't need to worry about my personal life right now. You need to focus on getting better. Listen to me. Margaret's voice gained strength. Before the accident, I was contacted by someone claiming to have information about your biological family. They knew details that weren't in any public records. Samantha's blood chilled. What kind of details? The name of your birth mother. The circumstances of why you were given up for adoption. And most importantly, the identity of your biological father. I don't understand. Why would someone contact you about this? Because they've been looking for you, and they traced your employment history back to the museum. Margaret reached for Samantha's hand with her uninjured arm. Samantha, your biological father is Nathaniel Blackwood. The name meant nothing to Samantha, but something in Margaret's tone suggested it should. Who is Nathaniel Blackwood? One of the most powerful oil executives in the country. He owns Blackwood Petroleum, and he's worth approximately $8 billion. The room tilted around Samantha. That's impossible. I thought so too, until I saw the documentation. Your birth certificate, hospital records, even a DNA analysis. It's all legitimate. Why now? Why after 24 years is he suddenly interested in finding me? Margaret's expression darkened. That's what worries me. Men like Blackwood don't do anything without a reason. And the timing is suspicious. What do you mean? The investigator who contacted me mentioned that Blackwood has been researching your background extensively. He knows about your education, your work, and most concerning of all, he knows about your time with Khalil al-Nasser. Hearing Khalil's name spoken aloud felt like being stabbed. How could he possibly know about that? I don't know, but Samantha, you need to be very careful. If Blackwood is reaching out now, it's because he wants something from you. Before Samantha could respond, her vision blurred. The stress of the flight, the shock of Margaret's accident, and now the revelation about her parentage was too much. The hospital room spun, and she felt herself falling. She came to in a different hospital bed, with Elena sitting beside her and holding her hand. What happened? Samantha tried to sit up, but Elena gently pushed her back down. You fainted and hit your head. The doctors want to keep you overnight for observation. Elena's voice was carefully controlled. Honey, what the hell happened in there? Margaret's been asking for you, but you've been unconscious for 6 hours. 6 hours? Samantha touched her head and felt bandages. What time is it? Almost midnight. You scared the hell out of everyone. The memories came flooding back. The phone call, the flight, Margaret's revelation about her biological father. It felt like someone else's life, too surreal to be happening to her. Elena, I need you to do something for me. Anything. I need you to research someone named Nathaniel Blackwood. Find out everything you can about him, his business, his family. Everything. Who is he? Samantha closed her eyes, still unable to fully process the truth. Apparently, he's my father. The machines around her bed beeped steadily as Elena squeezed her hand. Outside the hospital window, Phoenix glittered in the desert night. The same view she'd fallen in love with 3 years ago when her biggest worry had been proving herself as a young curator. Now she was lying in a hospital bed, learning that her entire understanding of her identity had been built on incomplete information, and somewhere in the city, the man who'd shattered her heart was probably continuing his life as if she'd never existed. The irony wasn't lost on her. She'd come to Phoenix to help Margaret with work documents, only to discover that her own life was about to be turned upside down by a man she'd never met, but whose blood ran through her veins. Samantha woke to the sound of familiar voices arguing in hushed tones outside her hospital room. The medication made everything feel distant and dreamlike, but she could make out Elena's sharp tone and a deeper voice that made her heart skip despite herself. She doesn't want to see you, Elena was saying. You had your chance 2 years ago. I know how this looks, but she's in danger. Blackwood's people have been watching her for months. That voice. Samantha's eyes snapped fully open as the memories crashed back. Khalil. After 2 years of silence, he was here. How convenient that you show up right when she's vulnerable, Elena replied coldly. What kind of man abandons a woman and then appears when she's in a hospital bed? The kind who's been trying to protect her from a distance and just realized it's not enough anymore. The door opened before Samantha could pretend to be asleep. Elena entered first, her expression fierce with protection, followed by a man who looked like Khalil but wasn't quite the same person she remembered. He was thinner, his face more angular, and there were lines around his eyes that hadn't been there before. His expensive suit was wrinkled as if he'd traveled a long distance quickly, and his usually perfect hair was disheveled. But those green eyes were exactly the same, and they were looking at her with an intensity that made her chest ache. "Hello, Samantha." His voice was softer than she remembered, uncertain in a way that the confident man she'd known had never been. "What are you doing here?" Her own voice sounded strange, hoarse from the medication. "Margaret called me. She was worried about you, and she thought you might need protection." "Protection from what?" Khalil glanced at Elena, who crossed her arms and remained firmly planted by Samantha's bedside. "Can we have a moment alone?" "No," Elena said flatly. "Whatever you have to say, you can say it in front of me. I'm not leaving her alone with you." Samantha appreciated Elena's fierce loyalty, but she needed answers. "It's okay, Elena. Just 5 minutes." Elena looked ready to argue, but something in Samantha's expression stopped her. "I'll be right outside. One wrong word from him, and I'm calling security." After Elena left, the silence stretched between them. Khalil moved closer to the bed but didn't sit down, as if he knew he didn't have the right to get comfortable. "You look different," Samantha said finally. "So do you. Seattle agrees with you. How do you know where I've been living? I had someone keep an eye on you from a distance, just to make sure you were safe. You had me watched." Anger flared through the medication haze. "For 2 years. Not watched. Protected. There's a difference. Not from where I'm sitting." Khalil ran his hand through his hair, the gesture achingly familiar. "Samantha, I know you hate me, and you have every right to. But right now, your safety is more important than your feelings about me." "My safety from what?" "You keep talking about protection and danger, but no one will tell me what's actually happening. Nathaniel Blackwood isn't just your biological father. He's one of the most ruthless men in the oil business, and he's been looking for you for a specific reason. Which is, your mother didn't just give you up for adoption. She was running from him when she died." The words hit Samantha like ice water. "My mother is dead." Khalil's expression softened with something like regret. "I'm sorry. I thought Margaret had told you everything. She told me about Blackwood being my father. She didn't mention my mother. Your mother was Elena Marchetti, an Italian journalist who was investigating Blackwood's business practices. She discovered evidence that he was bribing foreign officials and manipulating oil prices. When she tried to expose him, he had her discredited and destroyed her career." Samantha tried to process this information, but everything felt surreal. If he destroyed her career, why did she need to run? Because she was pregnant with his child, and she had evidence that could send him to prison. Evidence he's been looking for ever since. What kind of evidence? Financial records, recorded conversations, documentation of illegal activities spanning decades. Your mother hid it all before she died, and Blackwood believes you're the key to finding it. That's impossible. I was 3 when I was adopted. I don't remember anything from before the Rivertons. He doesn't know that. All he knows is that you're Elena Marchetti's daughter, and he's convinced she left you some kind of inheritance beyond just genetics." Samantha's head was pounding, and not just from the concussion. "So you're telling me that my biological father is a criminal who's been hunting me for 20 years because he thinks I can lead him to evidence that would destroy him?" "That's exactly what I'm telling you. And you know all this how?" Khalil was quiet for a long moment, and Samantha could see him weighing his words carefully. "Because Blackwood approached my family 6 months ago. He wanted to use our business relationship to get close to you." "Your family does business with him?" "Kamar Al-Sara imports a significant amount of oil technology from American companies. Blackwood Petroleum is one of our largest suppliers." The pieces were falling into place in a way that made Samantha feel sick. "So when you came to Phoenix, it wasn't just for the museum job." "No. Blackwood had discovered our relationship from surveillance photos. He threatened to cancel our contracts and destroy our economy unless I helped him get close to you." "You were working for him?" The betrayal felt fresh and sharp, as if no time had passed at all. "I was supposed to be. But the moment I met you, everything changed. I couldn't go through with it. So instead you just lied to me about everything. I was trying to protect you while figuring out a way to get Blackwood off your trail permanently. By making me fall in love with you, that was protection." Khalil flinched as if she'd slapped him. "That was never supposed to happen. I was supposed to get close to you, Find out what you knew about your mother's evidence and report back to Blackwood. But you didn't. I told him you didn't know anything about your biological family, which was true at the time. I thought that would be enough to make him leave you alone. Clearly it wasn't. No. He's become more desperate as federal investigators have gotten closer to uncovering his crimes. He needs that evidence destroyed, and he's convinced you're his only lead. Samantha closed her eyes, trying to make sense of the impossible situation. The man she'd loved and hated for 2 years had been sent to spy on her by a father she'd never known existed. A father who apparently thought she could lead him to evidence that would destroy him. Why are you telling me this now? She asked. Because 3 days ago, Blackwood's people caused Margaret's accident. Samantha's eyes snapped open. What? It wasn't random. They were trying to get her out of the way so they could approach you directly. They didn't expect her to survive, and they certainly didn't expect her to call you back to Phoenix. You're saying someone tried to kill Margaret to get to me? I'm saying Blackwood is done playing games. He's going to come for you directly now, and when he does, I want to make sure you're ready. Ready for what? Khalil moved closer to the bed, his expression more serious than she'd ever seen it. Ready to disappear until we can figure out how to stop him permanently. I'm not leaving you to face this alone, Samantha. Not again. She stared at him. This man who'd broken her heart and apparently spent 2 years trying to protect her from a distance. The medication was making it hard to think clearly, but one thing was certain. I can't trust you, she said quietly. I know. You lied to me about everything. Your name, your job, your entire reason for being in my life. Yes. And now you're asking me to trust you with my life. I'm asking you to let me try to make up for the mistakes I made. I'm asking you to give me a chance to keep you safe. Before Samantha could respond, Elena burst back into the room, her face pale with panic. We need to leave. Now. What's wrong? Khalil was instantly alert. 3 men in suits just asked the front desk for Samantha's room number. They said they were family, but something about them felt wrong. Khalil cursed in Arabic and moved to the window, peering through the blinds. Black SUV in the parking lot with the engine running. We need to go. I'm not going anywhere with you, Samantha said, even as her heart started racing. Then you'll go with them, Khalil replied grimly. And I promise you won't like where they take you. The sound of footsteps in the hallway made the decision for her. Elena grabbed her clothes while Khalil helped her out of bed, his hands gentle despite the urgency of the situation. Can you walk? He asked. I think so. There's a service elevator at the end of the hall. If we move quickly, we can get out through the kitchen. As they prepared to leave, Samantha realized that her quiet life in Seattle was officially over. Whether she trusted Khalil or not, she was about to find out just how far Nathaniel Blackwood was willing to go to get what he wanted. And she was terrified to discover what would happen when he realized she truly didn't have what he was looking for. The safe house was a modest ranch home in Scottsdale, unremarkable except for the high-tech security system that Khalil activated as soon as they arrived. Samantha sat on the couch, still wearing hospital scrubs and trying to process everything that had happened in the last 4 hours. Elena paced the living room like a caged animal, stopping occasionally to glare at Khalil, who was making phone calls in rapid Arabic by the kitchen window. This is insane, Elena muttered. Yesterday you were a gallery curator with a normal life, and now you're running from oil barons and hiding in safe houses with your ex whatever he is. I'm still trying to figure out what he is, Samantha said quietly. Khalil ended his call and joined them in the living room. He'd changed into jeans and a black t-shirt, looking more like the man she'd fallen in love with than the royal heir he actually was. My security team is monitoring Blackwood's movements, he said. He flew into Phoenix this morning on his private jet. He's not planning to leave without answers. What kind of answers? Samantha asked. The location of your mother's evidence cache. He's convinced she left you some kind of map or instructions. For the 100th time, I don't remember anything about my mother. I was 3 years old. I believe you. But Blackwood doesn't, and that's what makes him dangerous. Elena stopped pacing and fixed Khalil with a hard stare. Explain something to me. If you've been protecting her for 2 years, how did Blackwood's people find her so easily? Khalil's jaw tightened. Someone leaked her location. I'm still trying to figure out who. How convenient, Elena said sarcastically. Elena, Samantha warned. No, I think your friend has a right to be suspicious, Khalil said. I haven't exactly earned anyone's trust. He sat down across from Samantha, careful to maintain distance between them. There's something else you need to know. About your mother's death. I thought you said she died when I was young. She did, but not from natural causes. The room went silent except for the hum of the air conditioning. Samantha felt that familiar falling sensation, as if the ground kept shifting beneath her feet. What are you saying? Elena Marchetti was killed in a car accident in Rome when you were 3. The official report said she lost control on a wet road, but my investigators found evidence that her brakes had been tampered with. Blackwood had my mother murdered? We can't prove it, but the timing was suspicious. She just contacted a journalist friend about publishing her story on Blackwood's illegal activities. 3 days later, she was dead. Samantha stood up abruptly, needing to move, to do something with the energy coursing through her body. So he killed my mother, and now he's coming after me because he thinks she told me where she hid evidence that could destroy him. That's what I believe, yes. But she didn't tell me anything because I was a toddler. Exactly. Elena had been listening with growing alarm. So what's the endgame here? If Samantha doesn't have what he wants, what happens when he figures that out? Khalil and Samantha exchanged a look, and she saw the answer in his eyes before he spoke. He eliminates the threat, Khalil said quietly. Meaning he kills me. Meaning we don't let it get that far. Samantha walked to the window and looked out at the suburban street. Everything looked so normal. Kids riding bikes, neighbors watering lawns, families living ordinary lives. It was hard to believe that somewhere in this same city, a man was planning her death because of secrets she didn't even know existed. There's something else, she said without turning around. Before I lost consciousness at the hospital, Margaret mentioned that someone had been investigating my background extensively. Someone who knew about my time with you. What exactly did she say? That whoever contacted her knew details about my relationship with you that weren't in any public records. Khalil was quiet for a long moment. How much detail? She didn't specify, but enough to make her suspicious about the timing of Blackwood's interest in me. Samantha, I need you to think carefully about this. During our time together, did you ever take any personal items to your apartment? Anything that might have belonged to your adoptive family or from your childhood? She turned to face him. Why? Because if Blackwood has been watching you for months, he might have had access to your apartment. If there was something there that connected you to your mother. The box, Samantha said suddenly. What box? When my adoptive parents died in that car accident 5 years ago, I kept a box of their papers. Birth certificates, adoption records, insurance documents. I brought it with me to Phoenix, but never really went through it thoroughly. Where is it now? In my storage unit in Seattle. I couldn't bring myself to look through it after they died, so I just packed it away. Khalil and Elena exchanged glances. What? Samantha demanded. If your adoptive parents kept any original documents from your adoption, including anything your birth mother might have left for you. Elena began. Then Blackwood has been looking in the wrong place, Khalil finished. He's been watching you, waiting for you to lead him to evidence that might be sitting in a storage unit 3 states away. But I don't have keys to anything my mother left behind. The Rivertons never mentioned her leaving anything except me. They might not have known what they had, Khalil said. Adoption agencies often keep personal effects from birth parents in case the child wants them later. Your mother might have left something that looked innocuous, but actually contained the information Blackwood needs. Samantha sank back onto the couch as the implications hit her. So we need to get to Seattle before he figures this out. We need to get to Seattle and find that box before anyone else does, Khalil corrected. And then what? If we find this mysterious evidence, what do we do with it? We use it to destroy Blackwood before he can hurt anyone else. Elena sat down beside Samantha. Honey, are you sure you want to do this? We could just disappear, change your name, move somewhere remote, start over completely, and let him get away with murdering my mother? Let him keep threatening other people who get in his way. Samantha shook her head. No, if there's evidence that can stop him, I want to find it. It's dangerous, Khalil warned. If Blackwood realizes what we're doing, he'll do whatever it takes to stop us. He's already trying to kill me. How much more dangerous can it get? You'd be surprised. Samantha studied his face, looking for signs of the man she'd once loved beneath the worry and determination. Why are you really doing this, Khalil? You could have stayed away, let someone else handle the protection detail. Because I owe you. You owe me more than protection. I know, but this is what I can give you right now. And after? When this is over and Blackwood is dealt with, what happens then? Khalil met her eyes, and for a moment, She saw the vulnerability he usually kept hidden. I don't know. I broke an engagement to be here, which means I've probably lost my inheritance and my place in the succession. My family isn't likely to welcome me back with open arms. You broke your engagement? 6 months ago, when I realized that protecting you was more important than political alliances. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't want you to feel responsible for the choices I made. Elena cleared her throat. Not to interrupt this moment, but shouldn't we be making travel plans? If we're going to Seattle, we need to move before Blackwood figures out where the evidence really is. Khalil nodded and pulled out his phone. I'll arrange a private flight. We can be in Seattle by tonight. As he walked away to make arrangements, Samantha realized that she was about to embark on a journey that would either give her the truth about her past or get her killed trying to find it. Either way, there was no going back to the quiet life she'd built in Seattle. She was Elena Marchetti's daughter, and it was time to finish what her mother had started, even if it meant trusting the man who'd already broken her heart once. But first, she needed to understand exactly what she was walking into. Khalil, she called after him. He paused in the doorway. Yes. When we find this evidence, assuming it exists, what exactly are we looking for? Proof that Nathaniel Blackwood has been bribing foreign officials, manipulating oil prices, and ordering the deaths of anyone who threatens to expose him. And you think my mother documented all of this? I think your mother was an investigative journalist who stumbled onto the biggest story of her career. And I think she was smart enough to know that the only way to stay alive was to make sure Blackwood couldn't risk killing her. But he killed her anyway, because he thought she'd already passed the evidence to someone else. Someone he couldn't touch. Me. You. Samantha nodded slowly. Then let's go find out what my mother really left me. As Khalil resumed his phone call and Elena began gathering their minimal belongings, Samantha stared out the window at the Arizona sunset. Somewhere in this sprawling desert city, Nathaniel Blackwood was planning her destruction. But for the first time since waking up in that hospital bed, she wasn't just running from the truth. She was running toward it. The storage facility in Seattle's Georgetown district looked like every other industrial building on the block, which was exactly why Samantha had chosen it 3 years ago. Now, standing in the rain-soaked parking lot at 2 in the morning, it felt like the most dangerous place on earth. Unit 247 is on the 2nd floor, she told Khalil as they approached the building. Elena had stayed at the hotel, reluctantly agreeing that 3 people would attract more attention than 2. Khalil's security team had swept the building an hour earlier, but he still moved with the careful awareness of someone expecting trouble. The private flight from Phoenix had been tense, filled with strategy discussions and careful planning. But underneath it all, Samantha could feel the weight of everything unsaid between them. How long since you've been here? Khalil asked as they climbed the concrete stairs. About 8 months. I came to get some winter clothes I'd stored. Did you notice anyone watching you? Anyone asking questions about your family history? No, but I wasn't looking for it then. The hallway was dimly lit and smelled like concrete dust and old metal. Samantha's footsteps echoed as she led Khalil to her unit, her hands shaking as she fumbled with the combination lock. Take your time, he said quietly, positioning himself to watch both ends of the corridor. The lock clicked open, and Samantha rolled up the metal door. The unit was small, maybe 8 by 10 feet, filled with boxes and furniture from her Phoenix apartment. The box she was looking for sat in the back corner, labeled Riverton Family Papers, in her careful handwriting. That's it, she said, pointing to a medium-sized cardboard box that looked completely ordinary. Khalil helped her move aside some chairs to reach it. The box was heavier than she remembered, and when she opened it, the smell of old paper and dust made her sneeze. Let's take it back to the hotel, Khalil suggested. We'll have better light and more security there. But Samantha was already pulling out manila folders and document sleeves. I want to see what's in here first. I've been putting this off for 5 years. The top layer was exactly what she'd expected. Insurance papers, medical records, her adoptive parents' marriage certificate. But underneath, she found a sealed envelope with her name written in handwriting she didn't recognize. This wasn't here before, she said, holding up the envelope. Khalil moved closer, his body tense. Are you sure? Positive. I would have remembered this. The envelope was thick, yellow with age, and sealed with wax that had cracked over time. When Samantha broke it open, she found a letter written in Italian and a small brass key attached to a leather cord. Can you read Italian? She asked Khalil. Some. Let me see. He studied the letter for a long moment, his expression growing increasingly grim. It's from your mother. Written the day before she died. What does it say? My dearest Samantha, if you are reading this, then something has happened to me and you are old enough to understand the truth. The man who claims to be your father is not the loving parent I once believed him to be. Nathaniel Blackwood is a monster who destroys everything he touches, and I was foolish enough to fall in love with him before I discovered what he really was. Samantha's legs felt weak, and she sat down on one of the stored chairs. Keep reading. I have documented everything, his bribes to foreign officials, his manipulation of oil prices, the people he has silenced. But most importantly, I have proof of the murders he has ordered, including plans to eliminate me. This evidence is hidden where only you can find it, my darling girl. The key will lead you to a safe deposit box at First National Bank in Rome, under the name Elena Riverton. I chose that name because I wanted you to have something that connected your two families. She knew the Rivertons would adopt me. It seems like she arranged it. Khalil continued reading. I pray that you will never need this information, that you will grow up safe and loved and never have to face the evil that your father represents. But if he finds you, if he threatens you or anyone you care about, use what I have given you to destroy him. He has taken enough lives. Don't let him take yours. Samantha stared at the key in her palm. It was small and unremarkable, but it represented something her mother had died trying to protect. There's more, Khalil said. Tell Thomas and Sarah Riverton that I am grateful beyond words for the love they will give you. They are good people who deserve to know that they are saving a child from a monster. But please, never let them know about the evidence. The less they know, the safer they will be. My parents knew, Samantha whispered. They knew about Blackwood all along. It appears so. That's why they never talked about my adoption. They were protecting me. Before Khalil could respond, his phone buzzed with a text message. He read it, and his face went pale. We need to leave. Now. What's wrong? Blackwood's people found the hotel. Elena is safe. My team got her out. But they're expanding their search to include anywhere you might have personal belongings. Samantha quickly stuffed the letter and key into her jacket pocket and started to close the box, but Khalil stopped her. Wait, look at this. He was holding a photograph that had been hidden beneath the other documents. It showed a young woman with dark hair holding a baby, both of them smiling at the camera. On the back, someone had written Elena and Samantha, Rome, 1999. That's my mother, Samantha said, taking the photo with trembling hands. The woman looked exactly like her. Same dark eyes, same smile, same stubborn chin. I look just like her. There's something else. Khalil had found another envelope, this one containing a birth certificate and what looked like a medical report. The birth certificate listed Elena Marchetti as the mother and Nathaniel Blackwood as the father, but the medical report was more disturbing. What am I looking at? Samantha asked. DNA test results. Your mother had them done when you were born. She was confirming paternity? No. She was proving that Blackwood wasn't your biological father. The words hit Samantha like a physical blow. What? According to this, your real father was someone named Michael Rossetti. Blackwood is listed as having no genetic relationship to you whatsoever. Samantha stared at the document, trying to process what this meant. So Blackwood has been hunting me for evidence to crimes he committed against a woman who was never actually his lover? More than that, your mother was investigating him, got close to him under false pretenses, and when she discovered she was pregnant with another man's child, she let Blackwood believe he was the father to maintain her cover. She used her pregnancy to get closer to him. She used everything she could to get the evidence she needed to expose him, including making him believe he had a daughter he needed to protect. The sound of footsteps in the hallway made them both freeze. Khalil immediately moved to shield Samantha, pulling her behind a stack of boxes. How many people have access to this building? He whispered. I don't know, but it's 2 a.m. No one should be here. The footsteps were getting closer, and Samantha could hear voices now. At least 2 men, maybe 3. Check every unit on this floor, one of them said. She has to have the evidence here somewhere. Khalil pulled out his phone and sent a rapid text, presumably to his security team. Then he grabbed Samantha's hand and pointed toward the fire exit at the far end of the building. But as they prepared to move, Samantha realized they'd made a crucial mistake. In their rush to examine the documents, they'd left the storage unit door open, making it obvious that someone had been there recently. Too late, Khalil murmured, seeing the same thing she had. The voices were right outside her unit now. This is it. Unit 247. Doors open. Spread out. They might still be in the building. Samantha closed her eyes and felt the weight of her mother's key against her chest. Elena Marchetti had spent her last days trying to protect a daughter she barely knew from a man who wasn't even related to them. Now that daughter was hiding in a storage unit, holding evidence that could destroy the monster who had killed her mother and threatened everyone she cared about. But first, she had to survive the next 5 minutes. Khalil squeezed her hand and pointed toward a gap between two tall storage units. If they could make it there without being seen, they might be able to work their way toward the fire exit. The first man entered her storage unit, his flashlight beam sweeping across the scattered papers. Someone was definitely here, and recently. Find them. As the search intensified around them, Samantha realized that the quiet life she'd tried to build in Seattle was officially over. She was Elena Marchetti's daughter, carrying evidence that could topple one of the most powerful men in America. And she was no longer running from the truth. She was carrying it with her, one small key at a time, toward a confrontation that would either free her from Nathaniel Blackwood's shadow forever or get her killed trying. But first, they had to escape the trap that was closing around them in the darkness of the storage facility. The private chapel in the hills above Seattle was bathed in candlelight, its stone walls echoing with whispered vows that would have been impossible to imagine just days before. Samantha stood facing Khalil, Elena's letter and key safe in a secure location, while Elena served as their witness in a ceremony that felt both surreal and absolutely right. "Are you sure about this?" Elena had asked earlier as they prepared to leave the safe house, where they'd been hiding since their narrow escape from the storage facility. "I'm sure," Samantha had replied, surprising herself with the certainty in her voice. "We almost died tonight. I don't want to waste any more time pretending I don't love him." Now, as the elderly minister spoke words about commitment and trust, Samantha could hardly believe how much her life had changed in the span of a week. 7 days ago, she'd been a gallery curator with a carefully controlled existence. Tonight, she was marrying a man who'd once broken her heart, but had spent 2 years trying to protect her from a monster who wasn't even her real father. The irony wasn't lost on her that they were exchanging vows while hiding from the very man who had brought them together in the first place. "Do you, Khalil al-Nasser, take Samantha to be your wife, in joy and in sorrow, in plenty and in want, in sickness and in health, as long as you both shall live?" "I do," Khalil said, his voice steady despite everything they'd been through. He was still wearing the black t-shirt and jeans from their escape, but somehow he'd managed to find flowers for her hair and a simple gold band that fit perfectly. "Do you, Samantha Elena Rivorton, take Khalil to be your husband, in joy and in sorrow, in plenty and in want, in sickness and in health, as long as you both shall live?" Samantha looked into Khalil's green eyes and saw the man she'd fallen in love with 3 years ago, but also something more, a depth and vulnerability that came from surviving genuine danger together. "I do. By the power vested in me by the state of Washington, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride." The kiss was gentle and filled with promise, but underneath it was the knowledge that they still had to survive the night before they could have any kind of future together. "Mrs. al-Nasser," Khalil murmured against her lips, and Samantha felt her heart skip despite everything. "That's going to take some getting used to. We have time." Elena cleared her throat. "Not to break up this touching moment, but your security team is expecting us back at the safe house in 20 minutes. And we still need to figure out how to get to Rome without Blackwood tracking us." The safe house was a modernized cabin in the Cascade Mountains, far enough from Seattle to provide genuine isolation, but close enough to reach the airport when the time came. Khalil's security team had established a perimeter, and for the first time in days, Samantha felt like she could breathe. "So," Elena said as they settled in the living room with coffee and the exhaustion that came after extreme adrenaline, "when exactly are you two planning to tell me what really happened in that storage facility? Because the version you gave me in the car was notably short on details." Samantha and Khalil exchanged glances. They'd agreed to keep the full truth about her parentage between them until they could verify the information in Elena Marchetti's documents. "Blackwood's people found us, but we got away," Khalil said simply. "With help from your security team that arrived remarkably quickly," Elena added pointedly. I may have understated our backup plan. Khalil had snipers positioned around the building, Samantha explained. We were never in as much danger as it seemed. Snipers? Elena's eyebrows rose. Just how extensive is this security operation you're running? Extensive enough to keep Samantha alive until we can end this permanently. And how exactly do we do that? Samantha pulled her mother's key from around her neck. We go to Rome. We get the evidence from the safe deposit box, and we use it to destroy Blackwood before he can hurt anyone else. Simple as that. Nothing about this is simple, Khalil said. Blackwood has resources, connections, and 40 years of experience making problems disappear. But he also has weaknesses, such as his obsession with controlling the narrative. He spent decades building an image as a legitimate businessman, and he can't afford to have that facade cracked. If we can expose him publicly with undeniable evidence, he'll have no choice but to retreat. Elena studied them both. And if he doesn't retreat? If he decides to eliminate all the witnesses instead? Then we make sure he goes down with us, Samantha said quietly. That's remarkably dark thinking for someone who was cataloging art a week ago. A week ago, I didn't know that my mother was murdered for trying to expose a criminal, or that I've been living my entire life under a false identity because she was trying to protect me from something I didn't even understand. Khalil reached for her hand. You don't have to do this, Samantha. We could disappear. Change your name. Move somewhere Blackwood would never think to look. You could have a normal life. With you, if you'll have me. And let him get away with everything. Let him keep destroying people like he destroyed my mother. Samantha shook her head. No, I want to finish what she started. Even if it means giving up any chance at anonymity. Once we expose Blackwood, your real identity will become public knowledge. You'll be Elena Marchetti's daughter forever, not just Samantha Riverton from Phoenix. Maybe it's time I learned who Elena Marchetti's daughter really is. Elena had been listening to this exchange with growing concern. Can I ask you both something? This plan to go to Rome and collect evidence from a 24-year-old safe deposit box. What makes you think the evidence will even still be there? Or that it will be enough to bring down someone as powerful as Blackwood? Because my mother wasn't just any journalist, Samantha said. She was Elena Marchetti. I've been researching her since we found the letter. She exposed 3 major corruption scandals in Italy before she ever came to America. She knew how to document crimes in ways that would hold up in court. And the safe deposit box is registered under a false name with authentication requirements that only Samantha can meet, Khalil added. Elena was thorough. She made sure that only her daughter could access whatever she left behind, assuming she really left anything behind. She did, Samantha said with conviction she didn't entirely feel. She died protecting something. It has to be worth the risk she took. They were interrupted by Khalil's phone buzzing with an encrypted message. He read it, and his expression darkened. What is it? Samantha asked. Blackwood just held a press conference. He's announced that his long-lost daughter has been kidnapped by Middle Eastern terrorists, and he's offering a $50 million reward for her safe return. He's what? Elena stared at the phone as Khalil showed them a news alert. He's rewriting the narrative, Samantha realized, making himself the victim and us the villains. It's worse than that, Khalil said grimly. By claiming you've been kidnapped, he's given himself justification for using any means necessary to rescue you, including hiring mercenaries and calling in favors from people who don't ask questions about legal niceties. So now we're not just running from Blackwood's security team. We're running from bounty hunters. And anyone else who thinks $50 million is worth the risk of crossing a billionaire. Elena set down her coffee cup with shaking hands. This is insane. How did we go from hiding in a storage facility to being international fugitives in the span of 6 hours? Because Nathaniel Blackwood is desperate, Samantha said. And desperate men do dangerous things. She stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the dark forest surrounding the cabin. Somewhere out there, people were looking for her, motivated by more money than most of them would see in several lifetimes. In a few hours, she and Khalil would board a plane to Rome, carrying a key that might unlock the evidence needed to destroy one of the most powerful men in America. Khalil, she said without turning around. Yes. When we're on that plane to Rome, when we're walking into the bank to open that safe deposit box, when we're confronting whatever my mother left behind, I need you to promise me something. Anything. Promise me that whatever we find, whatever evidence is in that box, we'll use it. Even if it means we never get to have a normal life. Even if it means we spend the rest of our lives looking over our shoulders. I promise. She turned to face him. This man who'd become her husband in a ceremony witnessed by candlelight and desperation. And promise me that if something happens to me, you'll make sure the truth comes out anyway. Samantha, promise me. I promise. But nothing is going to happen to you. You don't know that. I know that I didn't wait 2 years to find you again, just to lose you to Nathaniel Blackwood. Elena cleared her throat. Sorry to interrupt, but shouldn't we be making actual plans instead of making promises? Like, how exactly are we getting to Rome without every airport security system in the world looking for Samantha's face? Khalil smiled for the first time since they'd left the chapel. Elena, meet my family's private jet. It's already waiting at Boeing Field with a flight plan filed for Morocco. Once we're airborne, we'll alter course for Rome. And once we're in Rome, we go to the bank, open the safe deposit box, and find out what Elena Marchetti thought was worth dying for. Samantha touched the key at her throat. And then we make Nathaniel Blackwood pay for every life he's destroyed. As they prepared to leave for the airport, Samantha realized that her wedding night was going to be spent on a plane, flying toward a confrontation that would either free her from the shadow of her mother's death or ensure that Elena Marchetti's final story would die with her daughter. But for the first time since this nightmare began, she wasn't afraid. She was Elena Marchetti's daughter, Samantha Al-Nasser by marriage, and she was going to finish what her mother started, even if it killed her. The truth was worth that risk. Her mother had proven it, and now it was Samantha's turn to prove it again.